Well, I think I'm going to work on my own truck today for a change and build a compound turbo system, because I'm running that single S475 still, and don't get me wrong, it definitely makes power. Definitely rips on this thing, but the spool up's pretty slow. I mean, there's nothing you can do, it's a huge turbo. The whole reasoning behind putting a really big turbo like this on was I wanted to figure out the best way to make it spool, but at the end of the day, it still doesn't spool like what a compound system would, so now I'm going to try something else and run this HE351 from a 04.5 to 07 Cummins. Just a stock turbo, because, I don't know, I'm interested to see how I'd run with one of these, because I think if I run this to spool up quick, and then once it's on boost, use this wastegate and maybe another bigger wastegate, and bypass this thing completely on boost into the big turbo, maybe it'd run really good, I don't know, so I want to try it. So I just started by printing circle on my plasma table there. It fits in there nice. And this one fits on the outside, and I'm going to grind that up, and then I'll be able to clamp that on there. I'll weld a 90 on there or something. And put the other side on this flange I printed. And then, yeah, make it all work somehow. So that's what I'm doing today. And I wanted to show you my plasma table set up here too. Actually, last time I showed it, it was just like kind of ghetto set up over there in the corner. But now I've actually like wired it up properly. And it's pretty good. I run it with this Xbox controller here. And now I'm running an Ethernet smooth stepper. And I just have it set up into all these breakout boards here so the wiring can come tell my drivers what to do, and got all my power supplies over here. And a wireless router too, so my whole table's wireless. And I got my torch height control and everything working now, so that's a pretty major big deal. Because when you're cutting stuff like this whole table, sometimes, well, the metal warps as you're cutting it, so it'll be much different height over here than over here. And if it starts at one height here and drives all the way to the other side, it crashes into the metal. But now I have it so it senses the arc voltage and changes the height depending on where the metal is. So yeah, this thing's working awesome. I'm really happy with this. But today, building this compound system for my old Cummins here, because I want to see if I can bend some rods or something, because I can't make much torque with this big turbo, only horsepower. Well, I'm just about to tear this thing apart. I just wanted to show how it was set up here before I do start tearing it apart. You can see how simple it is with this big single. It just has, that's literally just a straight pipe. And then I used a factory stock elbow, and I already had my exhaust brake welded onto that. And then I just built an exhaust, a downpipe, which is just a 45 and then straight and another 45. So it's super simple setup. And same with the drain too. You don't have to do anything crazy. You just straight down there into the stock hole. And it's 7/8 inside diameter hose or 16 AN hydraulic hose. And then for the feed I just use the 1/8 oil outlet here, but there's also another port down here, the stock one. It's I don't remember, M12 by 1.5 I think. I don't remember, you have to look it up. But yeah, just about to tear it all apart now. Just wanted to show it off before I pulled it apart. Okay, well, I pulled my downpipe and my turbo and all that stuff out of my truck. In the manifold, I pulled it off and I flipped it upside down, bolted the stock turbo on it, and then I put my big turbo down there with the 1.32 housing. And now, I mean, it looks like it should work pretty good if I use like one of these 180 pieces here. Something like that, maybe. I think I just gotta move the turbo in a bit and down, or maybe twist the housing a bit. But that'd be pretty good because I wouldn't have any welds on this piece. I could probably cut it down so it's nice and tight in here. And then I already have the 90 just sitting there. It's just like a regular Schedule 40 90. Seems like I should be able to use something like that back there. There's lots of room. I thought I was gonna have to get rid of these AC lines and stuff, but it's looking okay. And yeah, just the outlet from the small turbo here is just gonna have to come straight, and then 90 down and straight into the intercooler there. Should be pretty straightforward. So I think I'm just going to mess with this location of this guy for a little bit here and try to get this matched up perfect. Also with that one back there kind of in a perfect spot too. Get them so they're both happy, and then maybe cut some stuff and tack some stuff up, and we'll go from there. Okay, I pulled this thing off real quick, and now I'm just going to work on my flange here. See, I just printed 2 circles. One that fits in here nice and tight, and then another one that sits on there. And then if you look at like the stock one, it's like got a slight taper there. So I'm just going to put a bit of a taper on this, and then with that clamp on there, it tightens down really nice. And then I'll be able to weld this 90 on there. And then I just got to get my flange here cleaned up, and then I'll put it all back in there, and I should be able to tack this 90 in, and we'll go from there. Okay, I got this T4 flange here cleaned up. I'm ready to go, and then I got my 2 circles here, and I put them on the turbo, and then I use the stock clamp that these turbos come with, and clamped it on there, and welded the inside just really slow, like I did a little bit here and a little bit there. Let it cool so it wouldn't warp at all, and it was clamped to this so it wouldn't warp. And then I had to make a little bit of a clearance here so the wastegate was still open, and it does fine now, and I was messing with it. It's definitely not going to have any issues there. I think I'm going to drill this out bigger too, so we get more wastegate. And then, yeah, so that clamps on there really nice. It's got a nice little taper on the edge of this too, and that should work really good. That'll definitely work really good. So I think I'm going to put it all back in the truck now, and then try to get this 90 here figured out. Maybe cut a little bit off it or whatever. We'll figure it out. So I'm going to put it all back in here now and do that. Okay, turbo's back in there, and I got the 90 back there. See, it's just it's like sitting inside there. So it's kind of centered there. If you look at it from the top, see, it looks like it has to go, it's twisting back that way a little bit. And then here it's like inside the turbo. So I'm definitely going to have to make a cut here, taking some of that off and on the slide angle so it keeps the 90 turning back over there. And then hopefully I can bring it forward like whatever that is, like 2 inches. But I probably could just move this turbo back a little more too. I just want to make sure I'm going to have enough room for this thing, because I want to try to get this thing back on there again. An exhaust brake, because it's nice to have. It takes up a lot of space, so I don't know. I might have to cut it apart and make like an inline exhaust brake. But right now, I think it would work with the turbo where it is, because I do have a decent amount of space. So yeah, I think I'm going to look at it for a little longer and make a mark on that, cut it, fit it up again, see what it looks like, and we'll go from there. Alright, I made a cut on this thing, and you see I got my flange up in there, and that's resting on the flange. And I have a little bit of gap on this side, but the rear is tight. But if you, maybe I'll just show it. I don't know, if you look at the turbo, the 90 can come down a little bit too, so I should be able to just grind a little bit off the back of that 90, and then it'll like kind of sit down like that. Take out the gap there, and that'll sit in the center. Well, hopefully anyways. That's what I'm going to do. Alright, I got this hot pipe here built. I only had to make one cut on this side, and then the factory end just matched up on this side really nice. And it fits really, really good in my turbo housing here. Like if I turn it a little bit like that, it'll pick up the whole housing. Oh. Yeah, it fits really good. So I'm happy with that. I'm just about to put that stuff back in here now, and I'll bolt my big turbo to it. Hopefully my chacks don't break. And we'll see, make sure it's all fitting in there good, and then we can get our intercooler pipe between the two turbos figured out. That guy there, I'll probably just have to make 2 cuts, and then that should be done. Okay, I got the big turbo bolted to the exhaust housing of the small turbo now, and it's sitting in there by itself. It's not, there's no wood under it now. It's pretty tight clearances, but it does work. So now I'm going to get my small turbo compressor and put it in there, and then make sure it's all still going to work, and then we'll start to mock that thing up. Alright, I got both the turbos in there, and they're bolted together. I'm really hoping my tacks don't break, but it should be okay. And now I got this piece here. I just cut a little bit off one side, and then now see, we're getting really close. That's almost going to line up, but it's hitting on the battery tray here. And that doesn't really seem to have any issues there, but it's way further than it needs to be, obviously. So I think I'm just going to keep trimming, like, I don't know, take like 3 inches off here and 3 inches off here at the same time. And then this will move 3 inches forward. And then basically just keep going until it's tucked in there nice, and I still have enough room to clamp on here. And that one should be fine, it's just a normal straight coupler. And then you can see I got lots of room for this guy to come through here. So yeah, that's what I'm going to keep doing here. Just keep trimming this back slowly until I get it tucked in there nice. Okay, well I took another 3 inches off this pipe, and it fits pretty good now. It really hits on nothing at all. It's tons of room here, and it's not hitting on the battery tray anymore. And it's actually coupled in there. That's where it would be. So I'm pretty happy with how that looks. I probably could go a little more, but then the coupler will start twisting. I don't really need to go anymore, so I think I'm good to go on that one. And I was just mocking up with these 90s here. I should be able to just go like put that in my intercooler down there, something like that, and then this one here, something like that. Then see, I could just cut this back a bit, cut that one back a bit, and I should be able to just make one weld here in the middle. Then I'll just have like a nice little S pipe here. We should be good. It's good to go for the intercooler pipes at that point. The intake, I didn't really plan for that. I didn't buy any pipe or anything for that, so I was just gonna kind of figure that out after it's working, because I can drive it without an air filter. That doesn't matter. And that the one I have over here might work. We could try it right now, actually. I don't know. It's pretty tight. I might be able to get it in there though. We'll see. That's not a big deal to build that though later. For now though, I think I'm going to finish mocking these up, make some marks, cut them, tack them together, and then maybe I could weld everything out to this point. Okay, I got this one in here now. It's just tacked in there, and I'm pretty happy with how it looks. I was able to keep it back out of the way of my belt, and it's tucked up nice and tight with this pipe here, but it's not touching. And I was able to keep the compressor housing tilted down a lot so it stays nice and low. So really just need to weld this out now and put some beads on the end of my pipes so they don't blow off. But I don't even think this one can blow off really, because I can't, it's not clamped in there, but there's no way you could get it out. I had to clock the compressor housing into place to get this pipe in here. So I really don't think that one can blow out ever. But this one might, if I didn't put any beads on it. So we'll see there. I'll put some beads on that, and then I'll have everything out of here. I will, I gotta like knock out a freeze plug down there. I don't know if you can see it. I think it's right there. And then I can put another oil drain in for this guy here, and then I'll just use the stock one that I was already using for this guy. Okay, I pulled everything out again so I could weld that hot pipe and weld out the intercooler pipes and stuff. So now while I got a bunch of room, I'm going to get this second oil drain put in. You can see the stock ones right there. I use that for my big turbo. And then there's a freeze plug right there. So you can just smash it out of there and you can press this in there. I'm just going to use a screwdriver and hammer, beat the shit out of it until it turns to the side, and then pull it out with some pliers. And hopefully I don't drop it in my oil pan. So you can see here I just like started to tap on it lightly until it started to turn, and now I can just get in there with some pliers and pull it out. It's pretty straightforward. Well, I got that second oil drain down there pressed in and ready to go, and then I also put in a 6AN line here, so now I can get everything put back in. See, I got my hot pipe all welded up, ready to go, and my intercooler pipes, put some beads on the end there. So now I'm going to put everything all back in here again, and then I'll get my drains figured out, my oil drains figured out, and then I'll get my feeds figured out. And then I'll probably pull it all back out again and paint it. Okay, turbos are back in there where they should be. Now I'm going to try to figure out these oil drains. This is the oil drain I built to use in the single turbo application, and if you see, that's where I wanted to go, so that one will be super easy. I'm just going to do that one right now real quick. I'm just going to cut down my old one here. It's just -16 hydraulic hose, or 7/8 inside diameter. So I should be able to cut that down a little shorter, and then I'll put some heat shrinks over the end so it looks all nice. Get that in there, and then the top one will be a little more tricky. It's way up here, and I got to get it way down there. And I don't have a drain for this one yet. I'm gonna have to build something. So I'll get this rear one done real quick, and then we'll figure this other one out. Well, I got that rear drain in there. It's pretty simple. I was able to use the same metal piece that I was using in the single application, and I just had to cut my rubber hose down a little more. So that one's good to go, and now I'm just about to work on the smaller turbo up there. I have like this is a different one I used for a while, but it was too close to my turbo, so it melted the hose. And then that's the stock one here. These are both not going to work, so I think I'm just going to cut this hose off here, salvage this flange that I built a while ago, and then make a new one. Maybe I can make it just come straight down here, maybe in a little bit too, so it gives me lots of room for an air filter, or a hose for the air filter at least. And then I'll just cut a really long hose to go the rest of the way. Alright, top turbo, oil drain, it's all good to go now. Just welded a pipe on there. Going straight down. Well, there's only one real spot it can go, otherwise it'd hit on the here or it'd hit on here. So it's just going straight down there. And it looks fairly straight from the front here. And then I cut a pipe for it, or a hose. And then I'll just put that on when I install it for good, because it's impossible to pull it off that thing because it's got a really sharp barb on it. But yeah, it's all good to go. Clears my air filter clamp here. So now I'm going to start figuring out my oil feeds. I think this one will come up around here to the top turbo, and then I'll use this other one back here for the lower turbo. Check this out. My oil feed for my single turbo setup. It works perfectly fine for right there. I mean, it could maybe be a little shorter, but not really. It's pretty good. I'm not even gonna change it. I'm happy with that. And then it almost worked for the big turbo too. It was just like 2 inches too long. So I'm just gonna make another feed just like this, and then I'm pretty much good to go. Okay, big turbo has oil supply now. I just did a 6AN 90 out of there, and then it just curves up around there and comes into the stock feed port down here. There's lots of room from the manifold too. It's not hitting on anything hot, so that one should be good. I think I still am going to redo this one because I'm not really happy with it. It's a little too long. If I just put a 45 on this end and made it a little shorter, it'd just tuck in there much nicer. But I can do that whenever. I mean, I can do that when it's finished. I'm not too worried about that. So the next thing I gotta do here is get this wastegate on, or this wastegate actuator on there, because I don't, the mount is on the other side now, it's over here, because I turned the compressor housing. So I'm thinking maybe put it down here, in there like that or something. Weld a bracket to go into the oil drain on this small turbo, like over here. So I think I'm going to figure that out right now. And I also just put a little bit of paint on my intercooler pipes, so then when I do finish everything else, then they're nice and ready to go and I don't got to worry about ruining the paint trying to install them. So yeah, we're getting there. I just got to build this wastegate bracket and a bracket to hold the turbo mount. This thing here, I want to put a bracket going back to the manifold or something, so there's some extra support on here so it's not all just on this clamp. And then just gotta build a downpipe and we're good to go. Take this thing for a rip. Okay, I made this bracket here for my wastegate. It's just a piece of 3/16 2-inch flat bar. And I'm not gonna get this in there. You see, it's getting close. Now I'm just gonna kind of make note of how much of a bend I want to put on in here, and I want to keep this as high as I can, so you see it's sitting right there, but out here it should be fine. So I'm gonna try to keep the bend as close as I can to the wastegate, and then of whatever that angle is there, I could get a protractor out and measure it, but I'm just gonna put it in my vise and give it a little bit of a bend and test fit it again, and then just find a good spot where I'm happy with it and it fits in there good. And then we'll weld the shit out of it. Alright, I got this wastegate actuator figured out. You can see it's mounted to my oil drain down there. Just used some 3/16 by 2-inch flat bar. Should work pretty good. It really doesn't bend at all. I tested it by putting a bunch of pressure to it and actuating it open and closed a bunch. So that should be good to go. Now I just got to build a bracket off of that thing, or on the back, or maybe the other side, up to one of the manifold bolts or something. Because right now it's the whole turbo and everything down there is just hanging off just this clamp. So I think I'm gonna do something about that, and then pretty much done other than the downpipe. Alright, we're underneath my Cummins right now. I'm just trying to think of the best way to support this big freaking turbo here. I was going to mount it to the exhaust manifold at the start, but it's got those long spacer bolts and I'd either have to put it at the end, and I couldn't put it in the inside because it's like tapered in, so I was trying to find somewhere else to go. I saw there's like 2 threaded holes here, but the turbo's way up there, so I have to, it's not really very good. And then I saw there's 2 more threaded holes here on this freeze plug. So I think I'm going to build like a bracket that bolts to the block here to that freeze plug threaded holes, and then I should be able to make just a one piece of metal go straight up there to the flange, and I'll weld it on the flange. Hopefully, anyways. Or no, I can't make it bolt on. There's not enough room. So it's just gonna have to be really exact and bolt on right there, I think, because I don't know any other way to do it. So yeah, check out how much room I got for my downpipe. But yeah, I'm gonna work on that bracket now. See how that goes. Okay, I got my turbo support bracket done. You see, I just have a big plate there, welded, or not welded, bolted to the block. And then, let's see if you can see it down here. See, it just goes up on an angle up to my T4 flange. And I just welded it while it was in there because I didn't want to take the risk of taking it out and having it warp on me and then put it back in and it doesn't fit, because it's super tight clearances, man. I really don't have any room to move. If I move out, it's gonna hit on my shock tower. If I move in, well, I'm already hitting on my exhaust manifold, and I can't really go forwards and backwards at all. Otherwise, this won't mate up very nice, and it'll leak. So it's very important that stays exactly where it is. So the next thing I gotta do, is pretty much the last thing I gotta do, is build a downpipe for this. But this turbo has like a half Marmon flange on it, and I can't print that on my plasma table, so I might grind the back of that down to something similar to this one, and then print another flange like this. And then I have to somehow get an exhaust brake on there too, because this whole unit doesn't fit anymore, so I'm gonna have to like cut it off here, maybe weld my own flange onto here and use this to continue the I don't know, man. I'm just gonna fuck with it some more until it's done, but I'm getting close. Well, I cut this elbow here off my exhaust brake, and I cut a little bit off my off the downpipe I was using before, and then I mated it into the rest of my exhaust, and it's lining up not too bad. I should be able to work with that. And I think I'm just gonna like weld the pipe onto that side so there's no chance of any leaks. And then this side, I still gotta build a flange for this turbo before I can mate anything to it, so I'm gonna have to take this turbo off to do that. And to take this turbo off, I gotta take basically everything out, so that's what I'm gonna do right now. Pull everything out, build a flange for that thing, and then put it all back in, build the rest of this downpipe, and then we'll pull it all back out again and paint it, and then it should be good to go at that point. I tested that and it should fit, maybe good enough to run the truck for right now, and I'll make a better one later, but yeah, last thing to do, just gotta pull it apart a couple more times. I'm just trying to figure out a flange for this thing right now, and for some reason my 0.9 housing has a nice big usable flange for me here, but this 1.32 housing, it's much smaller and doesn't fit anything, so I'm gonna have to build my own flange for it. So that's what I'm working on right now. I just drew a couple circles here, as you can see, and I made some cut paths for them, and I put them into my Mac 3 CNC software thing, whatever. And then now I got my controller here. We can pretty much come over here with it. Gotta find somewhere I want to start, maybe right there. You see I can go down to this one too. Looks a good spot to start, so zero my axes here, so X, Y, Z, and then regenerate a tool path for right there, and then whoa, press go here and it'll cut me some circles. That's the inside of my flange, and then it'll cut another one over just outside that. that piece there is going to be the insert for inside here. It's going to press in here, and then I'll make another one for the outside. See, so now I got 2 circles. They're pretty good here, because I could never do that by hand unless I use like a hole saw, and even then it wouldn't be that nice or that quick. And it's probably going to need a little bit of grinding. It's pretty good though. That'll be my outside flange. I made it a little bigger than this one because this clamp here is a little big, so if I made this outside diameter slightly larger, it would take up a little more space and work a little better. And I also made the inside here have a little bit of space, you can see here, so I can put a little bit of a weld around in here, and then my pipe will weld to that. But I really don't have much room at all because this clamp is too small, so I don't know, I kind of want to weld it on the inside, but I don't know, we'll see. Got my flange pieces now though, so on to the next step. Okay, I just threw some tacks on this flange. Now you can see a little better. There's good space in here to put a nice weld, but you could still grind it back out and have like a smooth transition. And it's not impeding on flow in any way because it's kind of like a little lip in there for it. So yeah, just gonna weld that thing out and then put it back in the truck, and then we'll build the rest of the downpipe. Okay, I got that downpipe all figured out, ready to go. So now I'm just gonna throw a bit of high temp paint on these couple things here, or maybe I'll put regular paint on these oil drains. And then yeah, then I'll be pretty much done here. Then I can put it back together and take it for a rip. Well, I got my HE351 housing here, ported out a bunch more. I got a 1-inch drill bit all the way through there, and then I ported it out further than that with like a carbide tip. So that should help a lot with drive pressure issues and spooling the larger turbo once this thing gets out of its efficiency range. So I'm just waiting for this stuff here to dry, the paint on that, and then I was just getting my manifold put in and my drive pressure gauge, well, my drive pressure sensor and everything set up here, because I had it on the back before, but now I flipped the manifold upside down, so I wanted to use the same holes I already had drilled, so I swapped my EGT from here over here, and then I put a 90 here because there's no space, and 45 down and around the bolts, and then a bit of a curve to my sensor, and then my compound bracket is like right over here. And I have that oil feed that comes right past there too, so it's pretty packed under there. And then in here, yeah, there's a lot of stuff that goes in here, man. These compounds are pretty complicated. Well, not complicated, but there's just a lot of stuff you got to put in here to make it work properly. So yeah, I'm just waiting for that paint to dry, and I can pretty much put it all back together now. And I'm pretty much done. I can go take it for a rip and see if it even works. Just out here working on the tune of my truck a little bit. Check it out, I hooked up a boost sensor to the primary turbo, and then I have an overall boost sensor that sees like 130 pounds or something like that too. And I made a math parameter so then I can see secondary too, so I can see exactly how much my primary's making, my secondary's making, what my overall boost is, what my drive pressure is, and my low pressure fuel pump there too, and everything else obviously. I just thought it was pretty interesting to be able to see all that information. Super handy for dialing in these compounds here, because the wastegate's pretty finicky. It seems like if I open it too soon, it's not very happy, but if I open it too late, it's not very happy as well. But yeah, it's pretty cool. It runs way better now. Much cleaner and like pretty much instant spool up. But yeah, this video is probably pretty long by now, so if you like it, hit that like button obviously. Leave a comment too, let me know what you think. And yeah, subscribe. Let me know what I should work on next year on my truck. Maybe, well, I think I was just gonna buy one of these because they're cheap. But maybe I'd go second CP3 so I can actually feed these injectors. Let me know what you think.